Hello everyone, I am Leela Krishna from ENH iSecure and thank you for joining the demo session. In this session, we will carry out the integration and verify if the user can request access via Microsoft Teams. I hope you have reviewed the presentation, which outlines the problem statement, solution, prerequisites, and the integration flow of our use case. Now let's begin the demonstration. I have already logged into the Okta tenant using the superadmin credentials. So this is the Okta end user dashboard. And we can see we have access to Okta workflows as well as Okta access request. So let us start our integration from Okta access request by establishing connection with Microsoft Teams. So let me click on Okta access request. And this is the Okta access request console. On the left, we have multiple tabs. Under access request, we'll be creating request types. And under teams, we'll be creating multiple teams as per the organization requirements. And under settings, we'll be making configuration as per the organization. So under integrations, we have chat and collaboration integrations. Okta Access Request supports Slack communication as well as Microsoft Teams communication. So as per our use case, I'll be going with Microsoft Teams. So we will enable that. So I will be using the service account which has Teams admin privilege. So let us complete the authentication. So by this we have successfully established connection with Microsoft Teams. Now let's move on to Teams Admin Center and add Okta chatbot so that users can request access via Okta chatbot. Before that, we'll verify do we have an existing team so as to add Okta chatbot. So we have Okta access request team. So we will use this team to add Okta chatbot. So under manage apps, let us search for Okta. So we have three applications. The other two are region specific, APAC and EMEA. We will select the first one. We can edit the availability of the application to a specific user or else group, but we will leave it default to everyone. So let us add that Okta access request team. So by this, the users in that team will be able to request access via Microsoft Teams. So we have successfully added Okta chatbot. Now let's move on to Okta workflows and add connections to Salesforce, Azure, and Teams. So let me move on to end user dashboard and Okta workflows. And this is the Okta workflows admin console. We have multiple tabs on the top. Let us click on connections. So I have already added connections with Salesforce, Azure, and Teams. If not, we can just click on new button and add connection. So there are multiple apps: Azure Active Directory, Teams, Okta applications, and the Salesforce. So if you can select any application, on clicking create, you will be prompted for an authentication and authorization. On successful, the connection will be added onto your console. So let me reauthorize the Azure Active Directory. So there is a session with the Azure, so that will be captured now. So connection is healthy, states that we can use this connection. So let me do the same with Teams. And let us do the same reauthorization for Salesforce. So this is how you will be prompted for an authentication. So I will be using the system admin account. to complete the authentication and authorization. So we are ready with the connections. Now let's move on to flows and develop workflows for our use case. And I have already developed the workflows. Notify the approver, user provisioning, deprovisioning, notifying the decline request. So let us see what is in flows. So this is how a workflow looks. So the first card is Okta delegated flow, which take inputs, reason, role, user, and the other card is Okta read user, which is going to fetch his details from Okta admin console. So I'm going to fetch his manager email ID. So I'm going to use that to read him in Azure, and by his ID in Azure, I'm going to create a chat and compose message regarding the request and send message in the chat. And let's see what is in user provisioning. And in the user provisioning, we have used 3 connections: Okta, Azure, and Salesforce and Teams. So first card will be the parallel one with different inputs, and the other card is read user to fetch his first name and last name in Okta, and then search him in Salesforce to check his existence in the Salesforce. So we will be getting user ID, first name and last name if the user exists in Salesforce, and under table we are getting profile name and ID, and this is an Okta workflows if else block. So I have used the user ID as a condition. If the user ID is not empty, that means user already exists in Salesforce. So for that we will be updating him by using his user ID with the profile name he requested for, then activate him so that he can establish single sign-on. If not, we are going to create him in Salesforce by using the data in Okta and the requested role. And after creating and updating him, we are going to assign that application onto his end user dashboard so that he can just click on Salesforce on his end user dashboard. After that, I am going to notify him stating that your access has been granted by your approver. So the same, a flow, read user, create chat, and send him a message. So once user provisioning is done, after a certain time he requested for, user deprovisioning has to be triggered, and we are ready with that flow. So let us see what is actually a flow look. So the first card will be the same, delegated flow. Second, the read user in Okta, search him in Salesforce and deactivate him, and remove the application from his end user dashboard so that he cannot access it from the end user dashboard, and create chat and send him a message that your access has been revoked. And not only him, we are going to send a message to the manager stating that the access has been revoked. So this is how Salesforce user deprovisioning will be looking like. And we are with another flow which sends a notification when a manager declines the request with the reason stated by the manager. So the first card will be the Okta delegated flow, and we'll be fetching his details in Okta by using Okta read user card, then fetch his ID in Azure, create chat, and take the reason and compose the message and send it through chat in Teams. So this is how notifying declined access request workflow looks. So we are ready with the flows which are required for our use case. They are stated as delegated. So that means these cards has to be run by someone. That means the admin. So notify the approver, Salesforce user provisioning, deprovisioning, and notifying declined access request will be used in Okta access request. So let us move on to Okta access request to check whether these flows got sync with Okta access request. Under resources, So there has to be a tab called workflows. For that, we need to enable a feature in Okta Admin Console. So let me access that. And this is the Okta Admin Console. Under settings, we have features tab. So this is the place to enable early access features. So let us search for Okta workflow actions and access request. And by enabling this feature, the delegated workflows will be getting synced with Okta access request. So let us verify that. Let me reload this page. And there is a tab workflows. Let us click on that. So here we can see the 4 delegated workflows got synced with Okta access request. So we can use these workflows to create request type, but there has to be a person who has to trigger these workflows. For that, we'll be creating an admin console and assign that admin role to the service user. So let me create a custom role. Let us name it as delegated workflows admin. And there are permissions related to workflows. And we have 2 permissions, view delegated flow, run delegated flow. I will go with run delegated flow. And let's save it. As we are ready with roles, we need to create a resource set. So let us create a custom resource set. Let us name it as delegated workflows. And let's add resource. We have multiple resources. Let's go with workflows. And we can be specific with workflows, or else I will leave it default to all flows. So let us create that. So now we are ready with the role as well as resources. Let us assign this role and resources to the service user of Okta access request. Let us search for Okta access request. And this is the user who is going to be the service user to trigger the workflows. Let us save the changes. As we are ready with the service user as well as the workflows, let us start writing request type by creating a team in access request. So let me move on to the access request console. So under teams, we'll be creating a new team, and here we'll be creating new team. We can change the logo as per requirement. Let us name it as Salesforce access team. Or else leave it as Salesforce team. And we can add members as the admins of this request type team. And we can rotate the assignment to specific user or else a team members. Let us create that. So this is how we'll be creating a team, and we are ready with the team. Let us move on to request types, and there are no request types. Let us create one. So before that, let us add the team. It is going to be the Salesforce team, and the audience are a group in Okta. So there is no group over here. So to get an Okta group here, we'll push that group from Okta admin console. Let us verify, do we have any group? So we have Salesforce group for access request. So we will be using this group to push it into Okta access request. So this is the Okta access request application. Under push groups, we will be pushing that Salesforce group. Salesforce. and there is no group in the Okta access request, so it is going to create a group. So let us click on save, and the status is active. That means group got pushed on to Okta access request. So let us verify that. So this is the group we have pushed. So before starting to create a request type, let us get access to the Salesforce team, to the workflows, and to the admin console. For that, we'll move on to resources, workflows, and click on manage access. So Salesforce team has been disabled with the access. So let us enable that. Click on save. So the Salesforce team got access to the workflows, and this is the configuration list of Salesforce roles. So we'll get access to that. So this is a custom configuration list we have created. So let us add an item like standard user and click on save. And under pushed groups, we can see the groups which we have pushed from Okta admin console and Salesforce group for access request. And under integrations, we'll make the last configuration. Let us edit the connection of Okta. So we'll add Teams Salesforce to make changes in Okta, to perform task in Okta admin console. So if we scroll down, there is a action called run a workflow. It is enabled. So we'll update the connection. So now we are ready with the configurations. So let's start creating a request type in Salesforce team. So we'll name it as access for Salesforce app. And I'll put some description as use this for Salesforce application, accessing Salesforce application. And the team will be Salesforce team, and we'll select the group, Salesforce group, and we'll click on continue. So we have question, task, approval, action, categories to make a request type. So we'll start with question, and we'll ask the requester to select a role of Salesforce. So let us select the type as drop down and select the configuration list of Salesforce role. So user will be selecting a role from the list. So it will be assigned to requester. So once we are done with the selection of role, we need to ask him for the justification why he needs that access. So we'll put some text as the type and let him add his justification for the need of access. And the logic will be like after selecting the role, the reason has to be asked. So this is how the logic looks. So once the role selection is done, he need to justify the reason. So later we'll be asking him for the time of access. How much time do he need the access? So we'll put it as date as the type. And the logic will be after justifying the access, we need to ask him for the time. So we are done from the requester side questions. Now let us put some task which triggers the workflow to notify the manager regarding the request. So let me name it as notifying the approver or manager, and the type will be custom task, and it is going to be the run a workflow task, and the workflow notify the approver. We'll be using that, and we'll share the reason, role, and the requester's email address to the manager via Teams. So this will be run by Okta itself. So that is the service user. So once the notification is done, there has to be a task for approval for the manager. So we'll add that. Let us put it as approve or deny. So assign to, we can be specific with the requesters manager or else a group in Okta, specific user. So our use case will be of requesters manager, and we can put some due date for the manager. So in this date you need to approve that. So, and the logic will be, once the notification of manager is done, then we need to ask for approval. So notifying manager is completed, then ask for approval deny. So what if manager approves that? So we need to trigger the workflow user provisioning. So let us add user provisioning, and it will be the custom task. So it will be a run a workflow, and let us select the Salesforce user provisioning workflow, and we'll send the inputs role he requested for and the email address of him, the requester. And the logic will be, if the manager approves the request, so we'll select the approve or deny task. He is approved. So once the manager has approved, user provisioning is going to get triggered. After that, we need to wait for the time he requested for. So we'll add a timer card. So end after duration or else end on date. So I'll select end on date, and by using the field timeline. So, and the logic will be after user provisioning is completed. And after the time requested for, we need to trigger the user deprovisioning workflow. So now let us add a task, custom task, stating user deprovisioning. And the task will be run a workflow. So Salesforce user deprovisioning will be the workflow, and we'll send the requester's email address and the role is selected for. And the logic will be after completion of the requested time. So after waiting until the time is completed, user deprovisioning is going to get triggered. So what if manager denies the request? So we'll ask him for the reason why did he deny the request to the manager. This question will be to the manager. So let us name it as reason for denial, and it will be for requesters manager and type of text, and the logic will be approve or deny is been denied. So after getting denied with the request, there has to be a notification that to be sent to the requester. So for that, we'll be triggering a workflow. So notifying the requester, and it will be a run a workflow task. So let us select the workflow as notifying the declined access request, and we'll send the email of user and reason of the manager. And the logic will be after asking the denial justification, then we need to trigger the workflow. So we have successfully created a request type let us save a draft, and once after verification, let us publish this. So we have published the request type. That means the user can request access to the Salesforce by using this request type. So let us verify the access request by logging in as Jeremy Steele. So let us move on to his dashboard. And this is Jeremy Steele's end user dashboard. So Jeremy Steele, let us click on Okta access request and verify did he get access to that request type. Yes, he has access to the access for Salesforce application request type. Now let's move on to Teams and add Okta chatbot and request for Salesforce application. So this is Jeremy Steele's Teams. So let us click on apps and search for Okta. So we have Okta EMEA APAC. So let us click on Okta, open that. So I'll request access for Salesforce. I need access for Salesforce application. So it is going to respond me with great. Let's submit a request for access for Salesforce application request type. Or else you can click on I need something else or continue. So let us select the role, system admin. So there are questions that to be answered. Until then, it is not going to get submitted. So let us click on continue, and I will put the reason as to perform tasks related to Salesforce project. And I'll submit that. And there is one more question that need to be submitted, that is timer. How much time do I need access for? I'll click on submit. So now the request type has been submitted. So now let's log in as Mark, who is going to be the manager of Jeremy, and let's verify from his side. So this is how a token is going to get generated. So let me move on to Mark console, and this is Mark console, Mark Henry ENH Okta demos on Microsoft.com. He to access. So let us verify the Okta notifications. So there is a notification related to the request type from the Jeremy Steele. So now let's move on to his Okta access request console. And there is a request in his inbox from Jeremy Steele. So I'll open that. So there is a task, approve or deny, and there is communication. So I'll click on approve. So user provisioning has been triggered, and wait until has been triggered now. So now he has access to Salesforce. The Jeremy Steele can now log in and click on Salesforce on his end user dashboard to access the Salesforce application. Let us verify that. So there is notification. Your request for the access has been granted. So that means he has access to the Salesforce. So let me move on to his end user dashboard. Let us reload this page. So there is Salesforce application on his end user dashboard. Let us click on that. So he has successfully landed onto Salesforce. Now he can perform his tasks related to the project, and after the timer getting done as per his requirement, user deprovisioning will be triggered now. So I manually ended up the timer. So let us see. So there is a notification stating that your access has been revoked. If you require it, please attempt to request it again. So let us see. Yes, Okta deprovisioning workflow has been triggered. So now let us access it again. I need Salesforce application or else app. So I'll continue the communication. System admin. So I'll add the reason as to perform tasks related to the project. I'm not going to specify the project name. So I'll click on submit and I'll select the date. So the token is 50 now. So let me move on to mark, account, and so there are two notifications. One is from the previous request type, that is system admin role has been revoked. And there is another notification, hi Mark, and there is an access request for system administrator role from Jeremy Steel. So after seeing this notification, let us move on to access request console and inbox. And there is another request with token number 50. So let us open that. As you can see, there is a reason for the access to perform the tasks related to project. I will deny this now because project name hasn't been specified in the request. So I'll state the reason as the same. Project name wasn't been specified in the request. On submitting that, notifying the requester workflow gets triggered. So let us verify that. So there is a notification from Okta. Your request has been denied, and the reason is project name wasn't specified in the requested. So this is how Okta is going to notify regarding the rejection as well as the approval of request types. So this is how a notification in Teams gets triggered by Okta workflow. So now let's move on to Okta workflows and check the execution history of the workflows. So I'll go on to the workflows, notify the approver, and there is a tab execution history. So we have two successful histories, and one is for the approval task and the other is for denial task. So notifying the approver is mandatory, and the user provisioning, there is a success transaction. So Jeremy Steel got updated and activated in Salesforce. Let us verify the deprovisioning workflow. Execution history, there is one transaction. So Jeremy Steel got deactivated and unassigned with the application. So this is how execution history in workflows look, and we are pending with one. So there is a one transaction regarding the denial of request. Your request has been denied. Reason project name wasn't specified. So we have checked with the request by accessing the Salesforce from Microsoft Teams, and manager approves that request from his Okta Access Request console, and we have verified the workflows getting triggered. So this is how our use case will be working. And thank you for attending the session. I hope you found it informative.